So dear friends, let's start today's session on my career, my identity. What's economics? It's about the creation, consumption, and transfer of wealth. Many daily life dreams are part of economics, and the major chunk of the dreams of every student are part of economics. And it's true, economy and economics are the easiest and earliest habits of humankind. We find government taxing, subsidizing, and managing economy. Government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. Every student now wants to participate in the economy. There are many economic activities that are close to our daily life practices and plans. The influence and scope of economy undoubtedly clear to every one of us. The politics, business, relations, and everything are controlled by economy. Still, we must lay hold of the fact that economic laws are not made by nature. They are made by human beings. Managing wealth and business are most competitive field today. How to do it? What are the technical and professional skills required for this area? This is always a matter of tension for many. An economist is an expert who studies the relationship between a society's resources and its production or output. The expert opinions and research findings of an economist are used to help shape a wide variety of policies, including interest rates, tax laws, employment programs, international trade agreements, and corporate strategies. The theories of economists can provide a way for businesses and the government to react to the future direction of the economy. Today, we have my career and my identity interaction on economy and business. Parati Benny Vidum Vidyalaya YouTube series is working on the aptitude, skills, and talents of youngsters to get them connected to the real field experts. Subscribe the channel and join us for Sunday 4 p.m. discussions. Today, we have a promising budding economist with us. We have a wonderful, talented resource person to share the personal experiences and the latest developments in the field. It is none other than Ms. Divya Sebastian, PhD scholar from Duke University, USA. She has been a master winner and a medalist at her previous studies. She is a blooming economist with vision and dedication. We are blessed with her presence. Thanks, Ms. Divya, and most welcome to this episode of My Career, My Identity. While discussing on economics, business management, and its academic prospectus, we are supposed to look at the individual human beings and the skills and talents of daily life behavior. Here, in this series of My Career and My Identity, this aspect of personal, professional areas of human life are discussed. The current episode is 7th in the series. Please do follow this series. We have our 12th class students under the guidance of Mr. VP Joy with us to interact with the expert. I congratulate the youngsters for their participation, preparation, and readiness to know the branch of knowledge from the field perspective. And also we have George with us to facilitate. Congratulations and thanks to one and all. We find economical growth where poor are thrown out from development. Economic growth without social progress lets the great majority of people remain in poverty, while a privileged few reap the benefits of rising abundance. Integrating truths into the economy is a challenge. We need to focus on it. Truth is the most valuable thing we have. Let's economize it. I repeat, truth is the most valuable thing we have. Let's economize it. Welcome once again. Over to you, Ms. Divya.
Hi. A very good evening to everyone on this call. I am Divya Sebastian, reporting to you from North Carolina in USA. And today we will talk about research in economics of innovation. So first things first, Father Dr. Benny, I am truly grateful to you for even considering me fit to be part of this series. You've had some great personalities over for the last few weeks, and they've given such good talks. And I know I have some big shoes to fill, but let's get down to business. Um, a discussion about my career and my identity cannot start without mentioning my mentors. I thank my family for their unconditional support, my father for his expert guidance. He's been my personal influencer and hype man. My mentors through the institutions that I've been at. Benson Sir at Stephens, who's shown me that I still have some potential in me. Sunandan Sir and Manmohan Sir and Mani Sir at my master's program for not giving up hope on me. Janak Nabar and Swati Joshi for helping me shape my research interests. Now, I was pretty much like you all some years ago, okay? Malayali, but born and brought up in Delhi. Both my parents are retired government servants. My dad used to work in the economic division of TRAI, and my mom is a government school teacher. We went to church every Sunday, and like you, I was also asked, what next, beta? What are your plans after 12th? And probably many of you have already heard that you should try engineering or medical or BCom. Well, I was not one to take any advice. I had already decided what I wanted to do, and that was economics. In retrospect, I understand that this wasn't something that I chose for myself, but in fact, all my life, I was being prepared for it. And I didn't even know about it back then. So, as a child, I was very inquisitive. You bet my catechism teachers did not like it. So, I had no control. I used to ask the most dangerous questions and get in trouble at school and at home. And all those things have changed now. I'm more careful. But that inquisitive, curious nature that I had has definitely factored into my career choice as a researcher. But how did I get introduced to economics, and how was I so sure by 12th standard that this is it for me? I still wonder about it. I don't know. But here's my story. I was introduced to the subject just like you all in class 9, and I fell in love with it. I used to think that I like economics because I like the teacher. Maybe. But what really got me was that I understood it perfectly. It made sense and it was logical. So I could see supply and demand at the sabji mandi, and I could see no, seriously, I could see that why certain policies are designed to help the poor and the discriminated. And moreover, I could finally understand when my father spoke about his work, and that's a big deal in itself. And it was also during my 9th and 10th standard that I started fangirling some prominent people. And one of them was Dr. Manmohan Singh. Yes, that prime minister who never spoke. Did you know that he has a PhD in economics from Oxford University? That he was a professor of economics at Delhi School of Economics? And more importantly, he is the reason why India can trade so freely with her neighbors as a result of the 1991 liberalization reforms. And it has led to many prosperous years for the country. And that's the first thing that we learn in our economics class, the 1991 reforms of privatization, diversification, liberalization. Another role model I had during those times was the guy who predicted the 2008 financial crisis. It's Raghuram Rajan. And it was when I was in school that the crisis happened. And naturally, I followed it like everyone else. But I didn't really know who Rajan was. And until he was appointed the governor of RBI. And did you guys know that he is an economist without a single degree in economics? Yes. So I draw immense hope from his career progression, as it is similar to the one that I've chosen, a PhD and research in a business school. So even at that age, I dreamt big. I knew I had to do something in economics. And I also knew that I didn't have to struggle with bio or chemistry or physics. I knew I could take commerce with maths or humanities. And I went for commerce because that's more scoring. So after our 10th pre-board, when we are supposed to select which stream we want to go for, I selected commerce with maths, filled that form in, took it home to get it signed. Now, that day I realized that you can't simply put in commerce with maths when you have Mallu parents who want you to take science. Like it's just not possible. I don't know what I was thinking. My father was disappointed that he was not consulted, but he was happy that I had a plan. So I told him, see, Papa, I will do a BA and then I will do an MA. And then I will write my Indian Economic Services exam. I will prepare for civils. He was happy at that I have a plan. I had a conviction. So that was that. And after that, I was just putting one foot over the other. And I knew that I had to go for a master's after my bachelor's. And then I had to start writing the civil services exams. So I did my undergrad from St. Stephen's College at Delhi University. I did my economics honors there. And one thing you need to know about St. Stephen's or any prestigious college is that there are two kinds of people who will go there. So one type, which is the majority, are people who want to go for placements after their undergrad. So their focus is getting a corporate job. And there's an other smaller subset of people who are focused on doing their masters or going for higher studies or research. I was in the second group. And all my friends, we're all like-minded. We prepared for the entrance exams together. We applied to all the colleges. And I got into Center for Development Studies in Trivandrum. Now, my one rule was that I don't want to stay in Delhi. I want to go outside. I want to be free. I want to be independent. I want to party every day, right? And my parents were also happy. It was in Kerala, near my relatives. Not that near, but still. So I went there. Now, Sirius is a research organization. It's affiliated to JNU in Delhi. And it offers just 3 courses, Masters, MPhil, and PhD, all in economics. So when I went there, I found myself to be with, again, a very unique set of people. They're all like-minded. And that's where I developed my aptitude for research. And then I decided that I'll do a PhD in economics and keeping that civil option still open. But that was my focus had changed. I wanted to do research. So with my classmates, I started looking at the top colleges, right? There's JNU, there's Hyderabad University, there are the IITs, the IIMs. And I started preparing for the NET JRF exams for scholarship. And then something incredible happened, okay? I failed my NET exam. I failed it in the first attempt. So till now, I was running a race and I was not even thinking that I have to do this, then I have to do that. But at that moment, I stopped and I started thinking, what do I really want to do? What do I really want to research on? I didn't even have a topic narrowed down. And I questioned my ability to do anything because I failed an exam, right? And I thought that maybe I should go for a corporate job or I should start preparing for NET again. So then I started talking to people and all my professors said that I should start applying abroad. And many of my seniors had applied and they got into good schools. And then I thought, okay, I'll also go for this. But I had no idea how. I had not given my GRE. I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't have a project proposal. So to get a taste of research, I decided to work as a research assistant. And I joined STEER. STEER is short for Center for Technology, Innovation and Economics Research. It's a research think tank in Pune. And then my hope was to get a taste of research and prepare for GRE and my college applications on the side. Now, I reached Pune, but working as STEER was the biggest and most challenging thing I had done so far. So when they tell you, right, that college does not prepare you for work, they're right. Like they're absolutely right. So let my experience be a learning for you all, and take plenty of internships when you're doing your undergrad. And start now. It will prepare you. It will be good for you. Now, STEER was challenging. And I thought several times about quitting and running away from the problems. But I also knew that I can't give up now on the decisions that I made for myself. Like that will be a bad phase, right? That I'll bring on shame on everybody. So I thought maybe the problem is in me. And so, for example, in school, we study one day before the exam, and that's enough to get a good grade, but not at work, where you have to work every single day. The work was not complicated, but I certainly learned many important life skills. For example, how to deal with difficult people or how to market your ideas. So the thing is, when I left the organization, I had forged long-term relationships with everyone there. I'd fallen in love with my work, and I have my mentors, Janak and Swati, to thank. They really pushed my curiosity and they exposed me to the field of economics of innovation that I'm pursuing as my career today. So after I came here to do my PhD, I was on call with Swati and I was like, see, you were my mentor, you're so close to me, and you know how I work. So what is that one thing in me that made me stand out? So she said, Divya, you like a challenge. And that got me thinking, she was right. I won't do the work if it wasn't tough and it will just sit on my desk for days. I didn't even realize that about myself. And like I said before, I had these traits in me that make me a good fit for the career path, and I didn't even know it. So applying to colleges abroad and preparing for GRE went hand in hand with my work. And for the next part of the talk, I will briefly tell you what I have been doing after I came here to do my PhD and some new areas of research that might get you interested in this field. So I'm just going to share my slides now. Can everyone see the screen? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. So right now, can you all see my cursor? Okay. So right now I'm right here. I am a second year PhD student at Fuqua School of Business at Duke University. And Duke campus is located on the east coast of USA. And my PhD is in business strategy, in particular looking at innovation strategy of businesses. Now, innovation is a fairly new field. And while I was taught economics of innovation at my master's program, it is not usually taught as a subfield of economics. And since most innovation happens within firms and within businesses who spend on R&D and then translate their innovations into products, this topic has been relegated to business schools in the Western world. But think about it. What better place to study how organizations work than a business school, right? Because innovation is at the heart of an organization. Now, we are exposed to MBAs who have colorful industrial experience, and that directly feeds into our research. But where did it all start? And let me throw some numbers at you. And look at this graph. India spends about 0.7% of its R&D, of its GDP on R&D expenditure. And this is part of the work that I had worked on in my previous organization, Steer. And see, this is not a good picture for us. Look at the dark blue lines. India has India has the smallest percentage of spending on R&D as a percentage of our GDP. So what we did at Steer is that we try to see that if we push all manufacturing firms to spend at least 2% of their R&D, 2% of their sales on R&D, then can we bump up this number? We realized that no, it's not possible. Why? Because they're not big enough. So the root of the problem is that we have a missing manufacturing problem. And you must have heard about it in the news or in your high school classes, that most economies evolve, their growth path is this. First, they are primarily agricultural economy, and then they evolve into a primarily manufacturing economy, and then they slowly graduate to a primarily services economy. And US followed this path, Japan followed this path, even China is following this path right now. But India completely missed this bus to manufacturing and skipped straight from agriculture to services. But you see what the problem is here, right? To innovate, you need money, and for money, you need to innovate. So there's this chicken and egg problem, and to get to the root of that problem, to understand it more deeply, I need to go and see how organizations run. And that brings me to the research question that I'm looking at right now. It asks, do large firms get more out of their R&D investments? And I find in my data that yes, they do. And next, I try to explore why do they get more out of their investments? Is it because they have a large output, so when they innovate, they have some sort of insurance because they can spread all their fixed costs of doing R&D on this larger output? Or is it because they have some strategic assets, like they have a large marketing team or a large sales team to market this product, to commercialize their innovations? So in my paper, I try to get to the bottom of this. And hopefully I have got your interest by talking about what I research on. But there are also some nice new emerging areas in the broader field of economics and also in innovation. So let me just give you a brief idea about what these things are. So you must have heard about these buzzwords, right? Artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning. You must have heard about them. And they are probably good to know and learn about in and themselves. But they are also important for how they impact businesses. And that's a new and emerging area in innovation studies. Now, other than that, there's also health economics. And nowadays, we are also really focused on health policy. They impact our daily lives. Also, insurance. For example, in the US, we have a copay system where the doctor directly bills all the expenses to the insurance company. Now, what happens is there are a lot of inefficiencies. The doctors overprescribe tests and drugs, and it's not just inefficient, it also is detrimental to your health. Now, the most fancy and the gold standard thing in economics are randomized experiments. Now, the idea here is simple, right? For example, you have 100 people. You select 50 of them randomly and you give them a pill, right? And then you give the other 50 a pill that looks just like it, but it's fake. But they don't know which one is fake, which one is real. And you ask them to report their symptoms before and after they take the pill. And you as a researcher knows it, and you can calculate the effect of the pill. And that's it. That's the whole idea of a randomized experiment. The problem is when we apply it to economics, it gets more trickier. So for example, we want to evaluate a policy, and people know that who's getting the policy benefit and who's not. And then they will try to migrate to the other group. And as a researcher, you'll face those challenges, but that's what we do, and it's awesome. Randomized experiments are also used in behavioral studies, and they work with psychologists to understand human being as not a rational person, but one who makes mistakes and is irrational. So that's also an up and coming field in economics. Now that said, the mainstream economics areas like microeconomics, macroeconomics, and development economics. Now, development includes health, education, labor, migration, as well as econometrics are very active areas of research. Now, someone had asked me before that what is econometrics? And I thought, okay, you should know about this. But no, even I did not know in my 12th standard what this is. But it's so important and so mainstream that I thought I'll talk about it now. It's just a combination of two words: economy, econo, which is economics, and metrics, which means measures. So you put economic interpretation on measures or statistics. That's all that it is. So now that you would have a degree in economics, what do you do after that, right? So your first option, and mostly the most preferred option for people, is to go for a corporate job. If you're going for a corporate job, you can be a consultant in these big companies. There are several others, but these are the popular ones. You can do predictive modeling, for example, predict prices, or you can be a data analyst or a data scientist. Or the second most preferred, in fact, this is equally preferred option, is to go for a government position. And the most prestigious of them are the civil services. And as economists, we go for Indian economic services. They are a bit more preferred than anything else for us. The others are Indian administrative services, Indian foreign services, or Indian revenue services. Just note that there are so many different services, and their pay is not different. They all have the same pay. But yes, IES is the most prestigious for us. And a lesser known fact is about RBI and NABARD. They have their exams too. NABARD is National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development. It's part of RBI, but they have separate exams. These are also very prestigious positions, and you work as an economist and as a researcher in these organizations. Or you could go for contract employment as a consultant in any of the government institutions. This option is more widely used nowadays, more than ever. The third option is the option that I've chosen, is to do research or go into academics. So what can you do? You can either do research and teach in a university, and some of the big universities are JNU and Delhi School in Delhi, IGIDR in Mumbai, GIPE, which is Gokhale Institute in Pune, and ISI, which is there in Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore. These are just to name a few. There are several more, but these should definitely be on your priority list. Or you could work in a think tank like ICRIER or RIS or STEER. ICRIER is more general. They work on many general topics. RIS works on trade, STEER on innovation. There are several more subfields in economics, and whatever interests you, you should go and work for them. And the third option is that you can be an independent researcher and apply for government grants. I would highly discourage you to do that unless you're a senior researcher. Okay, so now you know what to do after a degree in economics. But what are you going to do now? Now that you're in 12th standard, how do you prepare for it? Well, there is no funda, right, of how do I get into this career path? But there are some things that you need to know or need to be aware of. And remember, I spoke about those buzzwords, AI and machine learning and big data. That's right. It's they are the new thing now, and they are the future. And if you don't believe me, you should believe Drake, because data is the new oil. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be programmers or anything, but I'm just saying that you need to familiarize yourself with these concepts. They are not difficult, they're just buzzwords. They're easy to understand concepts. Uh, you just need enough to answer questions. Even I don't know so much about it, but I just need to know something so that I can play with data. And if you're confused where to start, then pick up a language like Python or R, which is free. You can just download it, and then you can watch any of these videos. This is a channel that I subscribe to. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Do check it out. I'll share the slides with you. Right. The last thing that I want to talk about is about applying for a graduate program in the US. This is something I keep getting asked about. What was your plan? What was your strategy? Well, I did not apply to any of the top colleges. I only applied to 3. But Duke is a very good college, though, but it's not an Ivy League college. About scholarships, I will still not be able to help you because I was very careful to apply to only those programs which already had a scholarship and was fully funded. And I would say that you should feel free to contact me to get tailored advice on your college preparations and on your GRE and TOEFL preparations, because each person is different and they all need a tailored different advice. So watch out for that. I mean, you can just feel free to contact me. And that's all that I have to share for today. And if you have any questions, I really hope that I've converted you all and you all have become business and innovation enthusiasts now. But that's it. Do you have any questions now?
I wanted to ask you, is there any difference between doing a PhD in business administration and a PhD in economics?
Yes, absolutely. A PhD in business administration would solely concern business and entities. So we only study about businesses or firms. While economics, it can be about individual behavior or firm behavior, or even how countries interact with each other, right? So, but what I will point out is that economics is more theoretical and it's a broader field, of which business is just a small part. But research in business is more applied and it's more interdisciplinary in nature. Does that answer your question? Okay, I hope it does. Is there any other question?
I wanted to ask, how did you select which colleges to apply to when you wanted to do your PhD?
Right. So it took me at least a year of searching and Googling, and I made an Excel sheet and all before I came upon my advisor's work, whose name is Ashish Arora. I came upon it while doing some research for my organization, and I started reading some more of his papers. It just caught my interest, right? So then I wrote to him with my CV and my work at Steer. And then I got a reply back from Ashish saying that he's not in economics, but he's in a business school at Fuqua School of Business, and you can apply if you're interested. I was like, what? He replied. I was not expecting a reply. So just note that before writing to him, I maintained this Excel sheet, right, with all these colleges I wanted to apply to, the profiles of all the professors that I wanted to work with who were in innovation. And I had no idea at that point that innovation is actually taught in business schools and not in economics departments in the US. So I was completely looking the other way before I wrote to Ashish. And I applied that year to only 3 colleges, expecting to apply again next year to all the 10-15 places. But then I got accepted here, and it was a perfect fit, so I went for it.
So I had opted science in class 11th and 12th. So I wanted to ask if there is any scope in business management after completing class 12, and if my science background will help me in this field.
That's a good question, and the answer is yes, of course. So business and management is very interdisciplinary, and it encourages people from different and diverse backgrounds. And economics is just one way to get to this field. And every person has a unique background and brings something different to the table. So the more unique your capability and ability is, more unique your talent is, the more valued you're going to be. Does that answer your question? I hope that encourages you to come to this field.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, if I have a background different from economics, but I am interested in positions corporate like financial economics and data analysis, can I make the switch?
Um, yes, you can make that switch, and in fact, many people do that. Um, the idea is the closer your background is to economics, the better it is. But since you said financial economist, then you would need to know a lot about data, and just trust me, most of the learning you will do will be on the job. So you don't need to know economic theory, and you don't need to know economics. It does not matter. You're going to learn what the job is about on the job. So yes, you can make that switch.
I wanted to ask, is it a good option to financially pursue a bachelor's degree abroad or wait for a master's here in India?
Right. So this is an excellent question, and it has factored into my decisions time and again. So let me go over it in a little bit of detail. So when I was your age, right, in 11th, 12th standard, one uncle from church, he said, he had studied from London School of Economics, and he told me you should apply there for economics undergrad. So I go back home, I check the tuition costs, I converted all of that into rupees, I get a heart attack. And then I look at my parents and like, they are not going to say no, but they will have to sell the house and a kidney to make it happen. So like, so then I did not do it. I know that we were not poor or anything, but I knew that it's just, I don't know, it was just my mentality at that point. So I was a person who, I never got any pocket money, and I had to report each and every expenses to my parents. I think it's because we are Malu parents. Like, I think you will relate to me. But yeah, so that's something. I'm a very risk averse person, and uh, my opinion is going to be biased, but I will say that you should probably not take out a loan for your undergrad. If you're interested, you should go for it, but you should apply for a scholarship. And even for masters, you should try for a scholarship first. Let me tell you, there are thousands and hundreds of aid programs to help students just like us, and covers part of your tuition, if not all of it. And as for me, I never applied for my master's or bachelor's. I waited for my PhD, that too. I only applied to colleges which was fully funded and had scholarships. So that's my story. But it also depends on the course, right? So if you're taking a loan to do an MBA, it's a very high paying, like it has very high returns. So, but still, if it's for an undergrad, then I would highly recommend that you go for a scholarship.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome. I hope that helps.
like I wish to ask, like I have heard that researcher as a career path is very risky. So like what do you do after PhD? Can you earn as much with a career in research as in corporate?
Right. You're absolutely right. It is a very risky endeavor that you are taking, and not everybody is successful. And after a PhD, you are expected to live out your training by doing research, working at a good business school. And you can never earn as much in a university than you would in a corporate job. That's the ground truth. But however, if you're in this field, you are probably not doing it for money. You're only doing it because you are madly in love with it, and that you do you're madly in love with what you do, and that's the only motivation you're ever going to have. So that's that.
So, would you suggest a student to pursue a degree in economics who is not very fond of mathematics in general?
Okay, so that's also a very interesting question, since most colleges in Delhi universities do not accept students in their eco honors program if they have not taken math. But don't lose hope, because there are several other colleges, and other universities in India that do not require this. And more generally, economics is a very wide field, right? And most of applied economics has little or no math. So, for example, history of economic thought, or political economy, or even development topics like health, education, or labor. And nowadays, most of us can get away with knowing how to handle data and to perform data analytics without knowing much math. But however, I should point out that if you want to go to mainstream economics research, then you would be expected to have a strong math background.
Economic honors has a huge cutoff, especially in Delhi University. So, what are the options for colleges or universities would you suggest, which are of the same value or same privilege?
Right. So for your undergrad, you could look at Presidency College in Calcutta, or Xavier's College in Mumbai, in Kolkata, or in Ranchi. You could look at Christ University's Economics Honors Program in Bangalore, or you could look at Loyola College in Chennai. It's just to name a few. There are several others. But after undergrad, if you want to do a master's, it does not matter which university you do it from. So if your focus is to get a corporate job, then you need to look for the reputation of the college, so that you can signal to potential employers. But for if you want to do research and masters, then you're just learning, right? The brand does not matter.
I wanted to ask, what should we pursue next after doing an economic honors from a reputed college to become an economist?
Okay. So now Palati Achan also mentioned that before, that I'm a budding economist. I'm not an economist, and I'm never going to be, because there's a jargon among economics community that you will never be an economist until you get a PhD in economics. And this is a largely Western concept. It's not here in India that much. So since I'm doing a PhD in business and not in economics, I will not be an economist, as simple as that. But to answer your question, you generally need to do a master's or an MPhil. But in the US and outside, you can do a PhD directly after your undergrad. So that's what your career progression should look like.
I wish to ask, like, if I don't get my first preference in the college of my liking, should I pursue it anyway because the college is well reputed?
No, you should not, because you should fight for what you like doing the most and what you feel most confident in. And don't come into the pressure to go for the brand because your parents said so, or your friends said so, Or other people are like, yes, you're stupid, you're giving up this reputed college just because you didn't get your course. Like, no, don't listen to them. So at the undergraduate level, like I said before, undergraduate level, it does not matter which college you go to. And this also speaks to the college versus course dilemma that we face before we leave school, like in 12th standard. So I would always say course over college. And I can share my experience after 12th. So in Delhi University, we are given 2 choices, or maybe 3 choices. And in Stephens, you're given 2 choices. I was so adamant. I had that mindset that economics hi karna hai, no matter which college. So I only gave one option. And so that is my opinion, that you should not go for the reputation of the college or the brand of the college, but do what you feel like doing. My biased opinion, free disposal, please.
I wanted to ask, is a master's degree in economics enough for an individual to land a job as an economist in a private sector?
The short answer is no, you need a PhD in economics. But the long answer is that you can still work in other capacities, like a data analyst or a research analyst. You could do price modeling and prediction, you could do consulting, and these are very high paying jobs. So you don't need to do a PhD in economics to land up a good position in the private sector.
So, what are the daily life skills to be developed, focused to follow academic courses on economics?
Well, you just have to be aware of things that are going on in the economy. Now, one thing I learned is that you can't have a deep understanding about everything that's going on. So you can't be a binge news watcher or something. So you need to pick up what your forte is. And for me, I used to read the newsletter Live Mint just to see how CEOs are juggled between companies. And then I used to look at how finance commissions would announce devolution of tax revenues. So if you pick and choose the topics that, that get your interest, and it will help you be analytical and also help you understand what are the kind of problems that you are interested in. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
After this global pandemic, how important do you think economics is to be?
Uh, I think it will be very important. Let me tell you why. So, the field of economics has been shaped by major events in the world. So, for example, before the Great Depression in the 1930s, economists used to believe that markets will solve themselves. Uh, you should have no government intervention. But after the 1930s, that changed, and they had to inject a lot of government spending to revive the economy. The same case with the 2008 financial crisis. Economists before did not think so much about prudent monetary policy, but now there's a lot of rethinking that has happened. And the same is going to happen with this global pandemic. It will change the way economists think, and that will help us study the world economy much more closely. So it's necessary that we get these shocks, we get these, oh shit, it's not working. So to get us on the right track. And it will be all the more important to study economics.
Thank you.
In the current scenario, when the unemployment is at the peak, economy is down, the stock market is at all-time high. What could be the reason?
Well, the stock markets reflect optimism towards the future stream of profits. And it has everything to do with expectations about what the future outcome is going to be, and nothing to do with the current output. So, for example, stock market reactions of firms to which patents are granted today are abnormally positive, even though the actual returns would accrue only over the decades. And today, something similar is happening. with the discovery of COVID-19 vaccine, people are hopeful that there is going to be optimism in the future. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think the questions from my children has completed, and one or two may be there. So actually, I was closely, reviewing your experience and your journey from Delhi school to Duke, and actually, it's actually an inspiring thing for these youngsters. I think this session itself is a wonderful one for them to understand, because they are in that phase that every individual, especially the students, usually undergo. And the points you have mentioned, I'm a witness of all these kind of things. The 2008, problem, the economic crisis, and after that, the growth. 1991, then that was the time I started my career. So I know about globalization, the liberalization, how it helped the economy, and the names you have mentioned. And but as their student, their teacher, and they are my students and my as a father. And in new business, whenever you join in any business as a profession, or when you start a career, the main thing that kills every individual now, the every human being is facing, or very commonly termed, a used term, that is stress. And I think that these people are, one way or the other, a very human being. It is very commonly used even in our spiritual discussions. Also, this comes out. That means how to overcome this stress. But as a student, as a career beginner, what or how you tackle that one, and how you can give a good guidance for these youngsters to overcome this, because for the exams, after the exams, when they start something new, this question, this tab will be there, always funding them. What you can suggest them, that would be, after this session, they will go, and in their life, in every individual's life, that is the main thing. What you suggest, what you from your experience?
I would agree with you that it's pretty common thing now, and I would also say that it was a common thing before as well. Young or old, everybody faces stress, and it really depends on your personality type, how well you handle it. And we are not born with the capability to manage stress. I know that I fail at it so much. Like I need to take help. I need to talk to people. That's the only way that I deal with it. So, but then I would just like to say that there are certain things that contribute to the stress. And so, for example, parents are now more than ever concerned that their child does well in school, in their career, in society. And I'm not trivializing the pressures and struggles that our parents had to go through, because they did it too. But, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And everybody faces it. And the only way that we can tackle it, or we can come over it, is to talk about it. So I think it's high time that we realize that it's real. Stress, anxiety, mental health, these issues are real, and we need to talk about it. And I will speak for myself. I don't know about the others on the call, but I have this disconnect with my parents and the elders in our community. So they think in Malayalam, right? And I think in English or Hindi. So I know that there are some problems, some misunderstandings that happen because of this. And this language barrier is very real. It happens. Uh, The only way that we can grow together as a community is to talk about it. So we had to talk about stress. We had to talk about how to tackle it together. And that's how the community will grow together. And that's my take on it. Does that
Okay, good.
answer your question, Joyce?
Yes, good answer. Say it is relative. So because I belong to, we people belong to another generation, an older generation, and you are new with the circumstances. And as you pointed out, the language, and the thinking process also different. But they also have gone, so they have their own versions to say, and you address it in different way. And the ultimate, both are pointing to the same one, but in a different ways. And that disconnect is actually the main problem that, the older and the younger generation face, that you addressed it very correctly. So if you understand both the parents, the age, as well as the youngsters understand these things, then it is very easy, as you said. If you communicate in a proper way, that is the best solution, and don't take it personally. That's the best thing anybody can do. Anyway, see, a good answer for these youngsters. Thank you, Divya.
So my question to you is, in the beginning, you mentioned about these big personalities like Raghuram Rajan, Manmohan Singh. I mean, but they are like exceptions in the crowd. So how do I know that I'll make it through?
Well, you won't know until you're 50 or 60 years old that
Okay.
whether you made it through or not. But the idea is that if you don't dream big, and how do you even know that you'll get there? If you're scared that you can't even, that you will never make it, and that you don't even start to do it, how are you going? How are you even going to get even 10% of it, right? So you're always going to feel that you're not good enough or that you will fail. And whenever you feel like that, it's the right time to talk to an expert in that field. It can be your colleague, it can be it can be your advisor, it can be your parents who know you really well. And then you need to ask for feedback so you can be reassured that, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm not doing anything stupid. So that's the only way you'll know that, okay, this risk is worth taking. And yes, you're never I never hope to be, I don't think I'll ever be like Raghuram Rajan or Manmohan Singh, but I just hope, I fangirl them, right? I dream, that's it.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, Divya, usually our program is for an hour, 1 hour. So it is just getting 1 hour. So we now it is time to just close. Anyway, really congratulate. Divya is, as you have already told, you are fascinated to be adventurous in taking initiatives. Good. That is really visible in your every word, because you understand things with that adventurous spirit, and you speak and you study. I mean, all those things are very clear in your this 1 hour very valuable presentation, and your clarity. You can't be an economist, but in your ideas and the way you analyze and the areas you cover, that really proves that you have that ability to be an economist. Okay, may not be by title, as you have told, but you have that that strength and dedication. Anyway, congratulations, and very genuine, useful, and very professional program. Truly, it is very useful for the youngsters, and surely many will take benefit of this wonderful program. And the way you have shared very practical behavior and activities, which you have surely helpful for the youngsters. And you have told about mentors, and surely you have taken that role of a very serious matured mentor in your talks. I mean, you take because you are so clear about so-called minute details of that mentoring. Very good. Thanks a lot for this wonderful program. Now we are just concluding with a formal vote of thanks by George. So thank you. Now over to you, George.
Thank you, Father. So every person in his or her life faces this challenge of deciding upon their career path. Some people find it early, others find it in the course of time. But at this competitive world, knowing about your passion of finding a profession that you enjoy and love at an early stage gives you an immense advantage. And I feel sessions like these play a very important role for you to make those decisions. I really want to thank Divyadi for taking this amazing session on the various career possibilities that we have in the field of business and economics. In spite of her busy schedule, her research work, and the differing time zone, she took that extra effort and time for us. And and she cleared all our trivial doubts. Thanks a lot, Dee, for that. Wish you all the very best for your PhD work and all your future endeavors. And we firmly believe in few years to come, we will be hearing about your academic excellence through televisions and news channels. Thanks a lot, Dave. And nextly, I would like to thank our parish priest, Dr. Father Benny, who provided us with this platform and this wonderful opportunity for us youth to actually learn what are the various career options that we have. St. John Bosco used to define a teacher as a person who basically uh, discovers the sensitive chord of heart so as to draw out the best in a young person. Thank you, Father, for being the teacher in our lives. Nextly, I would like to thank Joy, sir, for being with us in this session. Sir, you're an amazing catechism teacher, sir. And your charisma, your energy has always been inspiring to us. Next, I would like to thank Johnson, sir, who helped us with the technical aspects of this session and opening this session for a wider audience. Thanks a lot, sir. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants who made this session lively and interesting. I hope many of you will be inspired by Divyadi and would be wanting to do their higher studies in the field of business or economics. All the very best, guys. Thank you.
I'll just like to say some more words. So if there are any other questions that if you want to talk about applying abroad or anything at all, I'm happy to take that up offline with you. Achan has my number and my email. Thank you everyone for being so active listeners and helping shape this conversation. And thank you, Father, for doing this great work and opening up conversations between youngsters in our very own community. Because what happens usually is someone very successful and on the top comes and talks to small people and they're like, how do I even get there? So I'm in the middle of my career journey. I'm only a second year PhD student. I still have a long way to go and I need your hopes, prayers and wishes, everything. So thank you so much. And I hope I've given you a different perspective to what it entails. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Surely it was great. And anyway, Papa and Mama, I mean, the complete family is known to me. Anyway, and the complete family is very much dedicated. It is not just Divya alone, because Mr. Sebastian and the family, everyone. Anyway, praise also the congratulations for such a wonderful session. And okay, all the very best. Surely we expect you to be in the top and contributing to the policies and plans the nation. We expect and pray. Anyway, thanks to everyone, Joy sir, Jos, and my youngsters from 12th class, everyone. Okay, thank you. So we end.